Hello, hello, and welcome to the Say Yes Movement podcast with Heather and John, where we help you with your professional and personal growth. Happy Friday, Heather. How are you?
Happy Friday, John. It's the long weekend. It's time to relax, get outdoors. I just got up to the cottage. The flowers are blooming. I am full of energy. What are you celebrating, John? Because always on Fridays, we celebrate the successes of the week. So tell me how your week has been.
Yeah, no, listen, the week has been, I can't even explain it. It's been so good, so good. And I think part of it is because of what I've been doing with priming all week. It's one of those foundational things that we learn in neurolinguistic programming about priming and setting yourself up for success. And this week I've had the opportunity, and I'm celebrating that I've shared priming with, new people and just giving them the opportunity to experience that and see it and feel it and hear it. And because I've been demonstrating it and showing it, I've been priming myself like 2, 3 times a day. So, in terms of my emotions and how I feel, it's like it's through the roof. It's crazy. It's just wild. Wow, wow, wow. And maybe that's where we spend some time talking about it today. Heather, what about you? What are you celebrating?
Oh, John, I'd love to hear more about priming because, this is a tactic that many people do and they don't even know they're doing it. So that is definitely something that we want to talk more about. But for all of our listeners out there, it is Celebration Friday. So we want to hear from you as well. And good morning, Nicole. I love the workout music. All right, we'll keep the energy up so that you can run a little bit faster if you're on the treadmill. So, John, this week I'm celebrating family. I'm celebrating connection, and I'm celebrating time away. And I think those three things, we often are on this treadmill of life, and it's going fast, fast, fast. And we actually had a death in our family, and I'm celebrating the life of someone, and I'm celebrating it from a place of how would they like to be honored. So I know that they would like to be honored by a no fuss kind of place and live our lives to the best. So, and I'm also celebrating the people that reached out and said, "I'm sorry for your loss, and how can I help?" And oftentimes in grief, people don't know how to help, and just the act of reaching out is I'm very
Yeah.
grateful for that. So that's what I'm celebrating. But John, let's talk about priming because this is a skill that both of us have learned through neurolinguistic programming, and we teach it all the time. But it's such a simple tactic. You don't need to go to any class for it. We can actually teach you right here. So, uh, tell me, where did you use it? Who did you
Yeah.
teach this week?
Yeah, well, I had a couple of classes this week, so I was walking through, and I have my 30-day spring reset group as well. So I kind of explained priming, and it all came about through a conversation I was having earlier in the week. And it's one of those tools I know we have in our toolkit, and it's just sometimes you forget what you know, and it's good to go back to the basics. So priming, there's a great book by the gentleman's name is John Barge. I think he's a psychotherapist, and he did a bunch of studies around what happens before you do something. So, for example, if you stub your toe first thing in the morning, things that will follow after you stub your toe, depending on how you react to it, will determine how you feel throughout the day. So, if you stub your toe and you feel upset, you get angry, that continues because you've primed yourself that way. Where I've been using priming specifically has been in and around interviews, right? One of the things I tell people not to do is watch CP2, like the news channel that's up on the screen, while you're waiting for the interview, because that's only priming you with positivity, anxiousness, fear, all those emotions that aren't good, that don't serve you in an interview, because we're always
Mm,
priming ourselves. And I thought about it, and I'm like, well, what if we could just prime, like we are priming ourselves one way or another. We're unintentionally or intentionally priming ourselves to react a certain way to things, especially as we go through our day. What if we were intentional about our priming? What if we actually set ourselves up
mm,
for success? We looked at, and you and I, we've looked at some of the most successful people out there, and they have, what we would call morning routines and morning habits that they run through that set them up for the rest of the day. Now
mm,
imagine jumping into your day feeling incredibly confident, feeling incredibly strong, and feeling incredibly empowered. Like you would be a completely different person in terms of how you show up each and every day. So I've been sharing this concept, and there's a couple of videos that you can find online on how to prime and really set up these success routines. but we all have that routine. So, for Nicole, she's listening to us today. This is a way of her priming for the day as she gets ready and she's doing the exercise. And exercise is another form of priming as well, because it brings up your energy. You feel strong and you actually end up walking into the office a little bit less stressed. So these are all things that set us up, right? And if you do it intentionally, you can actually have a very different type of outcome in your day, in your week, your month, right? It's wow.
Well,
Wow.
I think one of the things that people, when I ask the question, tell me what your morning routine looks like. Tell
Mm.
me what you do every morning without fail. It's always the same. And of course, there's, get out of bed, brush your teeth. And, there's some things that you can do super simply. And one of the one that I did is, and it came from when I had a knee injury, and I had to do a lot of physiotherapy. When I would let the dog out to go to the bathroom, I would do squats. So
Hmm.
now this is just a reaction. I'm doing squats. I'm doing calf lifts, and for the 3 minutes the dog's out, or the 4 minutes, I'm getting that in. So this is a activity that I'm doing. But guess what? For that moment, I'm getting movement in the middle of the day,
Hmm.
and it doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like it's extra. I don't have to schedule it. It's just randomly when my dog is going to go out to go to the bathroom. So, there are other activities you can attach to things that you're already doing, so
Yeah.
that it then becomes part of your routine. So that's a good way to add an activity without adding, extra stress about, did I do that activity or did I not do that
Yeah.
activity? And priming is all around, what is creating an environment that's going to help you make good decisions. I oftentimes when I have an important meeting the next day, I'll pick the clothes that I'm going to wear the night before. That's
Yeah.
priming, because you're actually visualizing yourself in that outfit. So if going back to your example, when you're going for an interview, I would imagine most people are picking out their outfit the night before, so that they're not stressed, so that they're not like, oh my God, what am I going to wear? I
Yeah.
didn't pick that up from the dry cleaners. You're taking all those thoughts away from, and if you are not one of those people that are picking out your outfit the night before, and you're actually adding stress to yourself, do you think you're going to be successful in that interview? And
Yeah.
people are like, what do you mean? Like, just because I was fussed about what to wear? Yes, you didn't prime yourself to be the best version of you. So think about, what's your day going to look like, and how can you prime yourself to be the best version of yourself for the entire day, right from the moment you wake up.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a thing, right? When it comes to priming, it can feel a little bit rough or a little bit inconsistent. Like it's just creating new ways of being. So that, so one of the things I walked through this week as I was demonstrating and walking through priming is sometimes it gets a little messy when you first start, because you're in and out. It's like, but I'm used to this routine. I'm used to getting up in the morning. I'm used to having my coffee. I'm used to going downstairs and reading the newspaper. Oh, I don't know who reads the newspaper anymore, but I was watching the news. I was watching my news feed. I was looking at Instagram or TikTok, or going through my email. How many of us, how many of us, let's be honest here, how many of us pick up our phones and the first thing we do is we look at our email, and we get stressed out first thing in the morning,
Mm,
because we're like, oh, look what's coming in today, and look at all the different things I need to handle, and look, how am I going to do this? And there's so much work on my plate. One of the things with priming yourself with a routine, whether it's meditation or even getting into physical activity like walking or just movement, right?
mm,
That sets you up and gets your mind ready for what's going to come.
yeah.
And it's the little things. And I believe it's Robin Sharma or Tony Robbins. One of these gentlemen talked about, it takes 90 days to create this new habit. So you
Mm,
have to almost force yourself to do this every single day until it just becomes part of who you are. And I think about, for myself, one of my priming routines is to exercise and get some activity in first thing in the morning, whether it's walking, it's swimming, it's biking, any sort of activity, but just get it done. And now, because I've been on this track for the last 2 years of doing this activity, I feel bad when I don't get it done, which is such a weird feeling. It's like, what do you mean I can't go for a walk? There's too many things going on today. It's like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna have to squeeze it in at some other point today, because that's part of who I am. And it's almost
mm-hmm.
creating that new identity for yourself. because
Yes.
now I am the athlete. Now, when I walk into certain rooms, people know me as the person who completed the Ironman. It's like, oh, it's the Ironman. I'm like, well, that's me.
That's your
So
identity.
yeah,
Exactly.
it becomes part of who you are. You're not just the person who exercises. I am athletic. I am exercise. I am fitness. I am health. It becomes a part of who you are. And as you're going through your day, it's just you don't even think about it, right? It's like the person who says I'm a smoker versus the person who says
Mm,
I smoke, right? I smoke
yes.
versus the person I'm a smoker, and that creates identity around who you are. And part of what you're doing with priming is really creating that new identity for yourself.
Yeah. Well, and I think that a good thing to talk about is how anxiety shows up, because anxiety
Mm.
shows up when you're thinking about the future and getting worried about the future. And priming can actually be something that you're doing in the past in order to influence the future. So if you want to have less anxiety, if you want to have less cortisol, which is the stress hormone going through your body, this exercise of priming will help you do that in a really positive way. And because you're doing it in a moment before something's going to happen, you are actually circumventing anything that you're worried about from happening bad, because you're going to do something different. And John, you're on the road today and you're priming yourself to get somewhere on time, but the podcast still needs to go on. So
Yeah.
this is what you're doing right now. Like, I'm going to pull over, we're going to get this done.
Yeah.
No stress, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, I wouldn't say no stress. There was a moment, right? There was like a tiny moment as I was working through to this morning, where I'm like, you know what? I got this, and I know Heather. She's cool. Whatever happens, happens. We're gonna get through this together. And that right away, because we've done this for so long, and we've had so many episodes, over 100 episodes together. It's like, you know what? No matter what happens, it's just gonna work. And you know I've primed myself to believe that no matter what happens, it always works out,
Yeah.
right? So, that's one of the things that become part of your foundational beliefs, right? Because as you prime, you're also creating those beliefs and, those belief systems within yourself that get you set up in a certain way. Oh, Lorianne
Okay.
is liking our topic today. She says it's awesome. Great reminder to be intentional on setting up primary activity to set up the day in a positive way. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Just think about what you're doing and how that's going to affect the entire day. John, I love that you recognize that it's the consistency, doing it
Mm,
over and over and over again. And oftentimes we use the priming technique to teach people how to be amazing speakers on stage. And
mm,
this is so important, because what happens, if anybody out there has ever had to do a presentation at work or a presentation in front of people, or actually been on a stage, that your body actually affects you. You get sweaty palms, sweaty armpits, you might have a dry mouth. Your body's doing all of these things because you're quite nervous. And there's a whole bunch of exercises that you can do before you do the speech to visualize yourself finishing the speech.
yeah.
And that visualization techniques allows you to really stand there and not be nervous, but to stand there and be powerful, to stand there and be impactful, to stand there and not worry, not have it be about you, but to be about the audience. And that's one of the things that we teach, is the priming of, this is not about you, and you're here to impact one person. Even if there's 1,000 people in the audience, one person is all you're
Mm,
looking to impact, because if that is the goal, can't everyone reach that goal? And if you impact one person, aren't you impacting 1,000 at the same time? Absolutely.
yeah.
And
Yeah, no, I'm agreeing with you 100%. No, it's when we talk about creating that impact, right? Like I know we have a vision, and actually I was talking with somebody yesterday, and they set a goal of impacting 5,000 people. And actually they're keeping track. They have like a little tally sheet, and they're one person, and up to this point in the year they've impacted 457 people. I'm like, wow.
ooh,
I know, I was like blown away. And I think about what we've created and what we're trying to do with impacting 1 million, right? And it we have to be in a good state. Like we have to, it comes down to state. What kind of state are you in? Are you in a confident state? Are you in a powerful state, empowerment state? Or are you in a fearful, anxious state? And, as you were saying that, I'm like, wow, like we are also priming ourselves to create that impact. I know you have your daily, your 5 that you're going through, and I
Yep.
know I for sure you're impacting more than 5 every day. But having, just priming yourself that, this is who I am and this is how I'm going to show up each and every single day. And even though you may, and at times we may feel like fakes, right? And there's been moments where I felt like a fake, that imposter syndrome kicks in. Am I really this person? If you do it consistently, going back to what you said, if you do it consistently, at some point you flip over and you become that person.
Mm. I remember
Right.
when you were training to be the Iron Man, I would say you're the Iron Man. You're like, I am doing an Iron Man. It was
Yeah.
an action versus an identity. And it just took a little bit of time before we got that action
Yeah.
changed into identity. And that is what consistency looks like. So, if you are thinking, how do I change my mindset? How do I change my behaviors? How do I achieve that goal? Honestly, the answer is consistency. And that
Mm.
consistency helps you build trust in yourself, trust that you can do it, and trust around for those around you. One of the things, in this whole conversation around making the biggest impact, one of the ways to make a big impact, especially if you're a people leader in an organization, is your message always the same? Are you consistently saying the
Mm.
same thing over and over again, whether it be celebration, whether it be rituals that you have at work, whether it be a moment, how you run your meetings? This allows people to know what to expect and how to step into it. And then they get to be the best
Mm.
versions of themselves. So, if you're always changing the agenda, always changing the way you're doing things in your own life, that sort of messy shows up in being inconsistent, being
Yeah.
untrustworthy, being things that people don't know how to be around your energy. So it's not only about being positive energy, but also how are you setting up the environment for those around you to know what to expect and to stand in their strengths at the best way possible. This is
Yeah.
why, John, we do every Friday Celebration Fridays. Our audience knows what to expect. They're thinking, and for those of you that are out there listening, we will still want to hear what you're celebrating this Friday. I know you're thinking it and you're thinking, oh, that's not big enough to celebrate. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
That mindset needs to change. And we're inviting you to change it right now with us.
Yeah. No, listen, I think I shared the story of my good friend Gunjan, who talked about his celebrations. He has celebrations daily. So every day he writes down a celebration in terms of what he's been able to accomplish. And I remember going on this trip with him. We were out for the day and, we had our full day. We were at an event and a conference. And, we get to the end of the day. I'm like, so Gunjan, so what are you celebrating today? He goes, I'm celebrating that I didn't have the croissants. I'm like, okay. He goes, I'm really trying to watch what I eat, what I put into my body, what I consume, because I want to get myself to where, from a health perspective, where I want to get to. And just not having the croissant is a celebration because I made a decision for me. I made a decision
Mm,
on who I want to be. And it's, stepping into that future self, right? Dr. Benjamin Hardy talks about future self all the time. Who is that person with your goal? And how are they
mm.
showing up every day? What do they do? How do they create that impact with the people around them? And they do it just by making the small decisions, right? Big or, big decisions, small decisions, but every decision counts. Every
Oh,
decision in
yeah.
every moment, right?
It totally does. And I see Blaze, you're celebrating spring is coming. Oh, planting all of I love planting. I love things growing because it's a reminder that even though it looked like it was dormant all winter, it's actually still doing all kinds of things in the ground. And isn't that what our heart is doing? Isn't that what our emotions are doing? There's still things that are blooming. And for anyone, this is the long weekend. This is the weekend that you plant your plants outside. But there is something really, really healing about putting your hands in the dirt. So take your shoes off, put your feet on the grass this weekend and celebrate not only the growth of the flowers in the spring, but the growth of yourself over the years. And
Mm.
this is a great journaling exercise. And Blaze, actually, I'm going to let you activate for me and for our audience what our call to action is. And that call to action is get outdoors, put your feet in the grass,
Mm.
and celebrate yourself and the blooming that you've done over the years and who you are today. Just stand in that. Let the sun shine on your face. It's going to be amazing. This is going to prime you for what is coming for the rest of the year. We're almost at that halfway mark of the whole year, and this is going to prime you. And think about, all right, what are you going to be celebrating December 31st of this year? And that's going to help you prime to get there. What are you going to be celebrating with yourself, with your family, with your successes, with your career, with your money, with your health, all of those things? And that is our call to action for the long weekend, John. Simple. Everyone can do it.
Yeah.
And let's make sure that we're celebrating ourselves.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I see the Lorianne celebration as well. I'm celebrating getting back into the garden and the smile on my mom's face as I finish her yard. Now onto my
I
own.
love
Oh,
it.
beautiful. I love it. I love it. Wow. I can't believe we're already here. Time's 20 minutes like vroom, just goes, right? So I just want to say a big thank you. The sun's actually coming up now. It's it's peeking through. The I just wanted to take a moment to say, hey, thank you for being a part of this call today, being a part of this podcast, and your participation means a lot to us. And thank you. Just wanted to express my gratitude there. And I just wanted to wrap up with thanks again. And just remember, when you shift your mindset, you shift your life. Wishing you all a great one. Have an amazing Canadian long weekend. Take care, everybody.